All right, let's stay in Washington. And as federal judges continue to press President Trump on those deportation flights, the administration is still firing back, now invoking the State Secrets Privilege Act to shield additional details about those deportations, saying it poses, quote, diplomatic and national security concerns. The filing by the Justice Department comes after a tense appellate court hearing in which a federal judge slammed the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport those migrants, saying Nazis endured better treatment than those deported and that they were deprived due process rights, allowing them to challenge allegations they are gang members. But despite the legal battle, President Trump's promise of mass deportations continues as ICE officials continue raids across major cities, detaining nearly 400 criminally accused undocumented migrants in Boston alone in just the past 6 days. So I'd like to welcome in now former federal prosecutor and current partner at Jones Walker LLP, David Weinstein. David, it's great to see you again. So as I said at the top of this, the administration is now invoking this state secrets privilege. What does that mean moving forward?
Well, for this court, it means moving forward, this judge is not getting any additional information about the nature of the flights, when they were announced, where they were going, what the process was to round up these people, when they departed, when they left U.S. airspace. He's not going to get any of those answers to any of the questions that he's posed, because it is the contention of the Department of Justice that the executive invoked the state secret privilege, and by disclosing this information, it would impact not only national security, but diplomatic relations. And they set that all out in a pleading that was filed earlier today, along with affidavits from Department of Homeland Security and the Secretary of State, as well as the Attorney General.
So, David, when we introduced you, I said you are a former federal prosecutor. In this filing, the DOJ says the court, quote, has all of the facts it needs. Would you agree with that?
Well, the court's not getting any more of the facts that it needs. So based on information that's been released publicly from flight tracking equipment, as well as information from the people who represent the plaintiffs in this case, the judge has enough to determine whether or not the individuals were given due process before they were removed from the country. Now, it's going to impact whether or not he's going to hold anybody in contempt. But getting back to your original question, he has what he needs to address the due process arguments that are being put forward by the plaintiffs in this case. He does not have enough to address any contempt issues, but enough to address the due process.
All right, so we were talking about a request from a federal judge here. So far, the DOJ is refusing to fully comply. Are you surprised at this standoff?
I'm not, for a couple of reasons. One, they've indicated they were never going to give the information to begin with. Two, it goes again more towards the contempt issue than it does the due process. And realistically, the contempt proceedings were never going to be criminal, they'd be civil. And so they've now picked the line in the sand. They've given reasons why they believe this would impact diplomatic relations as well as security of the United States, and did within the pleading itself give a basis for why they were conducting the deportations under the Enemies Act of the late 1700s. So again, the judge has enough to make a ruling. Whether or not it's going to hold up in the Court of Appeals, certainly this judge is not going to be happy with the answers he's given.
So, David, we know that mass deportations are something the Trump administration promised all throughout the campaign. They are saying this is a matter of promises being kept. What do you think happens next?
Well, there's still a temporary restraining order in place. And until that temporary restraining order is lifted, no more of these deportations can take place. Whether it's going to be lifted by a court of appeals, by the Supreme Court, or after further consideration, when they try to make it a permanent restraining order, it's not put in place. That all remains to be seen. That's going to play out over the course of the next couple of weeks, or perhaps if it goes quickly through the Court of Appeals, the course of the next week or so. So for the time being, immigration can certainly go out and round up these people, but there are not going to be any more of these mass deportations, because that would fly clearly in the face of an order that's been put in place by a district court judge.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.